Well, according to the Association of Super Funds of Australia, to retire at age 67, a couple will require around $74,000 a year for a comfortable lifestyle, while singles are looking at about $52,000 a year.
But if you ask Bryce Holdaway and Ben Kingsley, best-selling authors and hosts of the Property Couch podcast, they're going to tell you that you cannot rely on your super alone, and you should be aiming to live off $3,000 every week. Ben and Bryce are here to tell us how to do that. Bryce, 3,000, what's that, the magic number? Why is that?
Well, I guess comfortable retirement is in the eye of the beholder. So the numbers that you just quoted then, we would argue probably wouldn't be enough. So people are often surprised when they get to the end of their working life and they have a look at see how far super can stretch to find that, they start to question whose definition of comfortable is. So for us, 3,000 a week gives people an opportunity in the three phases of retirement, which is active, quiet and frailty years, gives you a chance to actually do some stuff that's really exciting.
All right, I've never heard retirement broken up like that. Right, active?
Well, you know, when you first retire, you've got lots of energy to do things.
Yeah, sure, and go travelling.
But at the end, you get to the frailty years, so in the middle there's the quiet
which
years.
can be very expensive. Ben, you use the rule of 25 to help calculate what you need in your retirement portfolio. What does that mean?
Yeah, so the rule of 25 is a simple concept that you analyse your expenditure over a 12-month period, and if you want to keep that certain level of living and lifestyle, times it by 25. And that will be the asset target or the investment target that you will have. Okay. Often sometimes referred to as the 4% rule, which means that over 30 years you're going to draw down on that asset base over those 30 years by around 4%.
OK. Hey, Bryce, so help us get there. Please keep in mind, I'm 6 months from the frailty section. How do we supercharge our retirement now?
I think, first of all, people, we're so used to working for money, we've got to change our mindset to have money working for us. Now, super is part of that. That's money working for you, but we've talked about we think that that's not enough. So the idea is to be able to carve off some of your income that you can put towards your assets column over the journey so that you can put it towards, in our view, buying a couple of investment properties, combine that with super, and then by the time you get to the typical retirement age, then you have more choice and more cash flow coming in because you had money working for you rather than just you working for money during your working years.
Some people messing around with that, taking money out of super to put in property. Is that part of the equation?
Not through what we talk about in the book. Yeah. That is an option for some people to get on the ladder. But no, we're talking about having that as a standalone asset that you're building, which is great. But also, instead of putting all of your income towards lifestyle for the now or upgrading homes or improving cars, carve a little bit of that away and put it into your assets column so that you've got a couple of different options that are building over time for your retirement.
Ben, house prices have gone up again in June to their highest level ever, but you say you don't necessarily need to be a property mogul.
Yeah, I mean, the concept there is we're talking about 2 or 3 properties that you might acquire over, say, a decade, and then there's a couple of decades later that those properties start to obviously grow in value, we're retiring the debt down, and then the passive income is flowing off those properties. Now, you combine that with the super that's also accumulating, and then when you get to, say, 65 or 67, there's a nest egg there, and it's that nest egg that you need. So you don't need to go out and buy 10 properties and run a property business, you know, in terms of a rental business at that level. You only need a couple of really sensible ones when you can comfortably afford it.
Gee, it's hard to see 67 when you're 25 and 26, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is. Bryce, if someone wants to invest in property now and they just can't crack it in the big cities, is sort of rent vesting looking rural, is that a thing?
I think that's a great idea because if you ask anyone across any generation, buying their first home is challenging. You ask our generation, my parents and my grandparents, it was always tough. But the one thing that is probably harder now is saving that initial deposit. So if you live in Sydney and you want to get into the Sydney market, that might be a challenge. So if you are prepared to go a bit further out, start on the ladder in a regional area or a bit further out, and then do what.
And that's not to live there, that's to find a good property with good returns, right?
Yes, or get on the ladder that way, but definitely rent vesting. If your lifestyle is well and truly part of the big city, it kind of makes sense that you rent where you want to live and you put your money to work somewhere else where it's getting a good return.
Ben, this isn't about getting rich quick. This is the long game, right? Yeah.
Very much the long game. So we're talking about, you know, our exertion income, our working income is 30 to 40 years. And so we're just basically saying just plant that seed now, let that tree grow over time and let, you know, basically time do that heavy lifting. The magic of compounding will basically take its place and then that passive income will start to flow through in return. retirement.
We're pretty much out of time, but a lot of people got so smashed with those high interest rates. How do you prepare for that, even if you're going, I'm going to play the long game here. Now I've got these two little properties cooking along the side and my interest rates have virtually doubled. How do you prepare for that?
Well, the people who had a buffer in place when interest rates went up, they said, geez, that's annoying, but I've prepared for this moment. It was people who thought that interest rates were going to stay that low forever and didn't sort of have anything in reserve.
Yeah.
They were the people that not only were panicking, but they then had to make decisions in a period of weakness rather than a period of strength. So it's all about preparing for what's coming around the corner. Low interest rates don't last forever.
Yeah, Bryce and Ben, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for helping me prepare for the frailty stage. Check out Bryce and Ben's latest offering. It is called How to Retire on $3,000 a Week, the Property Couch's playbook for passive property investing. Looks great.